Hey yo, peep this.
Yeah. This is how we like to do it.
God's gift from above the skies.
No lie.
Tune into the buzz while you get high.
The hitter, spread some wisdom so you can relate on topics of every kind to elevate your mind.
Listen, Mary Jane is not a drug. There's so much love in every nug.
New strains, they'll be the judge and see what it does. It's between the buds.
Watch this. We're back again. Back at it.
We're back.
I'm your co-host, Joe Derrick, and you got your boy who?
Lee Jones.
Who?
Lee Jones.
Hey, we are happy to have a spectacular guest.
A very, very spectacular guest.
We got someone with very, very powerful actions and words. So, happy to introduce the wonderful State Representative Juanita Brent.
We need a round of applause for that.
For real. We got to give it up for this nice dress, and then she gives that aura just power.
Right. Glowing.
I respect it. Yes, always carrying that about herself. Juanita, we want to thank you for coming on our podcast, Between the Budz. We believe in sharing people's stories, and also, whether their relationship with cannabis, and they don't always have to be a user. They can be an activist or a lawmaker, a policymaker.
Yes, indeed.
I'm jumping over words, but I'm just saying different things that I know I've seen this lady involved with, and including the community, like actually working with the people like us. So kudos and respect.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. She wears many hats.
Absolutely.
Right, and I think you can also provide a different perspective than anyone that we've had on the show so far.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
People need to hear it, so
Absolutely.
yeah, we're very excited as well.
Yeah. So we like to get started kind of by getting the world introduced to you and getting to know more about yourself.
We'll break the ice a little bit.
Oh, goodness. I like icebreakers.
Okay. So let's start off. So where were you born and raised?
Cleveland, Ohio, to be exact.
Hey.
The Lee Harvard community.
O-H.
I-O.
Okay.
Let's go.
So not just Cleveland, but Cleveland proper.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Just say I gotta rep my hood.
I gotta represent. People be like, "Oh, I'm from Cleveland," but they really be from like
where are you
Solon.
from?
Yeah.
I just, no shade to Solon, but
I ain't gonna put him out there. Actually, no. One of my good friends, always gonna be the homie, but it's Ashtabula, and I never went until dispensary opened up there, and I'm like,
you're like,
this is not Cleveland.
it's not nowhere near Cleveland. You like, it's not even like you on a whole different exit. Like, stop claiming us.
I was like, what?
They don't want them Cleveland properties.
I was like, I didn't know Cleveland had cows. Like, like that. I like that.
Man.
Just say you're in another county near
Like Cleveland adjacent.
Cleveland adjacent. That's what I start telling people. Cleveland adjacent.
Cleveland adjacent.
No, that's awesome. So Cleveland's known for a lot. Sports.
It's like we got
history
for a few things.
Yeah.
The Cannabis Summit.
The Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit.
That place was huge. I went to that myself. It was all the vendors. That's the largest I've ever seen. I've even been to some things out of state, and the cannabis, at the IX Center was the biggest that I've been to.
Yeah, it's well put together, especially for how fast.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Lenny, shout out to all Lenny and his crew. Everybody putting in work behind the scenes. Everybody we don't know, but. That's awesome.
That was awesome.
So may I ask, when did you, was there a time that obviously you're involved in politics, but was there a time that you discovered your passion for it, or it was an age, or did you kind of during school develop it?
So just long story short, I never thought I would run for office. If you look at how elected officials have to live, even today, driving from home, having to be part of a committee, I would have never thought I would ever ran for office because I just felt like it was those people. And my aunt who raised me since I was 4 years old was a state rep, and I used to hate seeing her go through this work. She used to have to argue with people. She used to have to do a lot of compromising, which I felt like she shouldn't have to compromise on some things. Some things were just good policy. You shouldn't have to compromise.
Correct.
But she was on a mission to get things done. I was like, that could never be me. I was like, I'm not gonna be stressing myself out.
Okay, so you saw how it affected her.
Yeah, it's real stressful. But I was sitting on a board for a community center, and literally one of the tasks that we had to do as board members was to sit to allow people to use the community center, and they had a candidates night for this race. And it was before the deadline, and I heard some of the candidates talk about wanting to run for office. I was like, these dudes are trash. One of the things they wanted to do was take away the funding for the community center, the one I was in.
Wow. Ooh, okay.
And so,
it's fighting words.
Yeah, okay. And I was like, I'm just gonna run just to shut them up.
Yeah,
and that became my why. And I feel like whatever you're gonna do, you got to know your why.
And that's actually very true, 100%.
That's very powerful, because I was kind of thinking it might be the other way around, since you related to someone that was a state rep. No. Like you kind of was inspired by that, but kind of in another way, you were inspired. Yeah,
she taught me the game, but I learned how to remix it to have my own why.
Yeah. That's actually even better, awesome, in my opinion, when you can. You know, get a little gist, but then put your own spin on it. You ain't gotta give it all handed to you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's dope. We were actually talking about, like, man, I want to figure out her why. So
I was like, because I'm like, she's got a little origin story here, so I kind of want to hear what it is.
I want the money to go towards the people. I want the policies to reflect, to make people feel seen in government. A lot of us, we see government, but we don't always see us reflected in it. So everything that I do, I feel like I want to reflect the people that I represent, or the people here in the state of Ohio, period.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's, I think the people from my experience, they would, most common person could relate to that. Like, who doesn't want to help others, or see others do well too amongst themselves.
Most definitely.
And I think we all do better. Hopefully less violence, more peace.
Yes.
So that kind of helped go through a few of our questions there, honestly.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
I'm like, okay, she's hitting like ding, ding, ding.
You'd have thought I practiced.
No, so let's see. I want to say, so what then led you to become an advocate for adult cannabis?
Oh, that's an easy story. So I've always have been around agriculture. As a kid, I did 4-H. And I just knew it was a plant. Yeah. And so I was always like that one brown girl amongst the other, the others.
Excited about plants.
And so as I got older, I never understood why do we penalize and criminalize this plant compared to other ones. Mm. When you learn about plants, you learn there are plants that really can do some damage to you. Mm-hmm. This wasn't one of them. Right. So it's like, what was it about this plant that we were criminalized? We were making money off of prisons. What was about that? And so it made me very intrigued, because as I got older, I met people in my life who were being criminalized by a plant. Yeah. There wasn't something that was processed. These are good people. And I said, you can't kill anybody off of cannabis.
Correct. Mm. See, that's unless like 500 tons fall on you, and that's like a blessing of that amount to just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But, I'm sorry. No, but now that you say that though, I was thinking about it. Like, I always grew up, it was always like dope from my family's experience. I never really knew it was a plant until I got older. So then, like, it was like, oh, it grows. I like, once I discovered how, like you said, how the cycle of it and like where it came
terminology.
From. I'm like, it's all about being informed, and also like, a lot of medicines are from plants, but like you said, this plant is not as harmful as they try to portray it, and it's just wrong information out there. And I think that this plant could be therapeutic in a lot of ways. Any type of like gardening or planting,
medicinal, like therapeutic.
Yeah, it's like rewarding to the soul. So shout out to the farmers and anybody out there.
A lot of us have fallen into propaganda, and so being part of 4-H for so many years, I would go to different farms, and it would people who would be growing cannabis on their farm. They would be doing everything else, and be this little pot of land, and we knew that it was cannabis, not hemp.
Yeah.
And so it was very much a distinction. And so I saw that with a lot of people. It was very normal, and they never got criminalized. The only thing difference that I noticed is they were just, I was black and they were white.
See,
and it was just very different, and nobody snitched on them.
Correct. It's just like the principle is just, that's just how it is. Sadly, I've seen that happen in a lot of my instances too, where it's like, I got some friends that, they just do, they know what it is, but it's like, if it was in a different shoe or a different scenario, it wouldn't be quite. But that's gotta change.
Like 2 levels to it. That's that stigma of the plant, and then add our culture into it and how we
stigma of who uses it, and it's like, everybody. I work in a dispensary and seeing all walks of life. Like, get out of here.
I'll tell you, the first time I really realized it was cannabis, I went to our 4-H group, went to go to a cornfield. And it was a guy, we were there looking at the different type of corn, and me and my friend decided to take a walk and take a journey. And literally in the middle of the cornfield was all of this cannabis. In the middle. And so from the outside, you would have never seen that it was cannabis, but it was like this big cutout in the middle. And we just stopped because obviously corn is very high. Is this cannabis? Is this there? I was like,
what is this? Okay.
And I'm like, I think this is something. And so the intellectual side of me is just like, I think this is cannabis. And my friend was like, this is weed. Now, she looks nothing like me, but she definitely did not call it cannabis. She called it weed. And she was like, this is what you could smoke. She didn't put it in her pockets. Now,
oh no!
Me knowing the family I had to go to, I was like, oh no! I was like, I can't
associate with none of this.
I can't take none of this home. But I remember taking a mental picture and then coming home and then finding it inside this encyclopedia because I did not want to use my computer at home. Yeah. Because I was scared somebody was going to find it on the search engine.
No trace.
So I still had the old school encyclopedias, and I looked it up on the encyclopedia. I've been excited to learn ever since.
All right, now could you walk us through or help people understand that you said it's 4H?
4H.
Yeah, what is, like, are you able to?
That was kind of like an agricultural program, because I remember they have that in high school and stuff like that.
So 4H is a program that young kids, you can start as young as like 5 years old, can join, and every year you have a different project. So maybe 1 year, I know for me, for a time I did like grains and different other plants.
Oh, that's good.
Another year I did goats.
Oh, wow.
But it's very expensive. I did animals, so we used to rent barn space. And so that's the part that people don't always understand about me, just being into agriculture.
No, that's dope. See, and you say you came from some agricultural meetings earlier, so like...
because you currently sit on the panel, right?
So I sit as the ranking... Yes, I sit as the ranking member in agriculture. That's mean I'm the highest in seniority for the agriculture committee.
That's awesome.
So for the state.
And that's huge.
But I've just always had a passion for it because I always feel like everyone should be concerned because everybody eats.
Exactly.
Everybody eats.
You gotta eat almost 2 to 3 times a day. It's not you're supposed to do 3.
And if it's not coming from the ground, then what are you really eating?
I've been learning that more and more as I got older.
Fake and processed foods.
Like, I forget, there's a documentary on Netflix, but it's like if you do an overview in a grocery store, like you're really supposed to just do like the fresh stuff and go around kind of. It's like all the stuff in the middle is like processed and kind of like fake based. It's just like, dang, like, and that's kind of what made me get closer to plants too. Once I, like, having sickle cell, my sister, knowing friends too, like affordability has always been the issue with cannabis, and accessibility. But it's like I learned more and more that you can grow this thing, you can process it and make your own. Food is medicine, so you can infuse it with that.
You're like, I thought they said this was a drug.
This is powerful. Like, this is actually medicine.
That's
so I'm like,
propaganda. Keep on going into people will keep saying something to you until you start saying it back. And you ever like seen people say like, I think that wall color is stupid. You keep hearing that over and over again, even though you never thought about the wall color, you'll start saying it's stupid.
Yep.
And you be like, how did I start saying this? And so
power of propaganda.
Yes. And so we have to be very concerned that when we hear slangs, we don't even realize there's slangs because people say it so much. Right. Dope, marijuana, Mary Jane. People that made a whole song off the word Mary Jane.
That's so true.
And so
it's a banger.
Yeah. So propaganda has really gotten us into this bind with this, and there are way worse things you can grow at home that are lethal.
Yes.
Take your life, and that you don't have to go through the regulations
from
to grow.
other plants as
You
well.
can brew your own alcohol and take your liver out.
Like we talked about, like poppy plants at one time. All these other type of natural plants that lead to heavier drugs that people get addicted to and die from.
You can actually die from cirrhosis of the liver from over drinking.
Yep. Yes.
But no one's stopping people from drinking.
You can order a semi truck if you can afford it.
Yes.
Shoot, I was in. I mean, I respect the hustle of all politics and politicians, but I was in D.C. for my birthday last week, and it felt like drinking was like water for a lot of people. Like it was just like I was there for a few days, and I'm like, man. But like they go ham.
But there's nothing in our system. But we do have a cannabinoid system.
Exactly.
All of us have a cannabinoid system, and so our body reacts in a way where it makes you more relaxed. It allows you to sleep. It helps you deal with pain.
I think you can have better conversations.
We react naturally to it.
Way more natural because our body is set up for that. And so we have to be in a place where we're educating people about the benefits of cannabis and what cannabis really is, because most people have been programmed to think of it in a very negative way.
Very true.
And sometimes the same people who are developing propaganda are still drinking alcohol. No one's out here saying if you drink too much alcohol, you're about to die. They still sell it.
Yeah, 100%.
Because even from when we were younger to now, so much more information has come out about cannabis. So before, a lot of people, if they try it and they get a certain reaction, they just think they got to stay away from the plant in its entirety. But they don't realize maybe that was just certain terpene or something like that you had an adverse reaction to. Or
it's learning about
there's
it.
so many things that it could be. So it's like,
anything
don't give up on it too much.
Can be bad. Like you ever hear people being lactose intolerant, they can't eat dairy because it affects them.
Gluten free.
So I still put milk in my cereal.
And so milk is not something that's deadly, but for some people's body it reacts different ways. Correct. Same thing with cannabis. It reacts different ways for different people. Some people, it's nothing. For other people, they could be laid out on the ground, sleep.
Exactly.
I mean, it reacts differently. So people have to learn themselves, no different than any types of other food. I'm getting older. I'm catching allergies and food allergies that I didn't even know I had. And so it's just learning yourself. And so that's the same thing with cannabis. We have to be in a place where we are educating people about cannabis.
100%. I think, not even get all spiritual, but your body is a temple, so you're supposed to, find ways to treat it right. Cannabis, like you said, we all have an endocannabinoid system, and cannabis in different forms can work different for people.
Yes.
But I've always suggested people to take notes, start slow, and everything. You gotta do in moderation. But the most important thing is try your best to be an informed consumer, not just I do this for fun, or I don't know. So many people think they know everything, and it's like you gotta be open-minded and willing to always learn, because there's always changes. But I've been able to truthfully, and just honestly speak with my doctor, my hematologist. She knows there's no one, my parents, there's no one to hide from. It's just you gotta live in it, I think, and we all kind of just gotta embrace it. If that's your choice of medicine, and be proud of it. Don't look at it like it's something that should hold you down or back from anything. Cause I've seen a lot of people
we gotta hide.
I've seen a lot of people have a way better quality of life from using it, or when they're able to.
And that's the key, is the quality of life feature. And there's so many things that we are learning, just even within society. But the biggest reason why we are seeing so much cannabis is the money, tax revenue. If it wasn't so much tax revenue that's untapped, and every state and even on the federal government is trying to figure out how they can bring more money into it, people don't want to buy houses. People are becoming more renters before they buy houses. There's a lot of things that people just aren't doing. So the tax revenue is shifting. So we got to figure out how can we get people to be consumers. Cannabis.
Man, so that's wise on a whole nother level. Was y'all ready for that? No,
I don't know if they were ready to hear that.
But no, that's true. I think that actually we got questions for you, but that leads me to a question that may not even be on here. it was, I don't know the name of it exactly, but it happened some time ago when Colorado legalized. They made so much money in their state that they pretty much, like the taxes, they were able to give people money back. Do you think or foresee Ohio doing something like that if we were able to? I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to say no.
Would they come with that kind of energy?
No. Ohio right now is in a surplus of $700 million. Right now. We got so much money that we don't even know what to do with it.
Take a sip. Take a sip.
Hold on, let me take it.
I was like, whoa.
Whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot of extra capital.
Because it's real dry here on the ground with all of us regular folks. So no, we're dealing with a tax system where our rainy day fund is so full, we cannot put any more money into it. And we have $700 million in excess. I don't know anybody where a bank has said your savings account is so full, we can't take any more money.
Yeah.
And that is what's happening here in Ohio right now. And we have still not spent that money.
Wow.
$700 million.
Wow.
That's life changing for the state.
What are they preparing for?
That's like life changing for every
That's
person.
for everybody in the state.
Everybody wins.
Oh my God.
Everybody wins. So, you know, Colorado, it's other states that are in surplus, but I mean, we don't have to go far to talk about a surplus. We're living in one right now, but does it feel like it?
No, not at all. I didn't know that at all.
We can't get some potholes fixed.
Exactly. And you know, we could be talking about increasing the local government fund because local municipalities use that money to deal with their potholes. And so, you know, now that we're dealing with a bunch of Grinches who just want to keep all the money, it's like, well, let's get it off to these druggies. And that's how they're thinking of it. Because they know people are going to spend it anyway.
Yeah.
Why not make it off cannabis?
Yeah, see, and that's where
Put
we
that
need
little
people,
tax on there.
Yeah, we need people to be more, like I said, informed users and speak to anybody you can that it's medicine and it's not just, I'm not a druggie or,
it's a plant.
Yeah, I'm a normal human being, a functional, working adult, tax-paying adult.
Generations upon generations, you know, that people have used it and have been successful in life. You know, it's helped them get through a lot, like we talked about.
So, may I ask, what is the Cannabis for the People Act, and how can it aid for a quick approach? Or is that like...
So, the Cannabis for the People Act was a legislation that came to my mind because when Issue 2 passed, for one, I was championing Issue 2. I made yard signs and everything for Issue 2 and was taking them around the state. But what I realized is after Issue 2 passed, my colleagues were so anti-Issue 2 passing, they wanted to do anything but make it successful. And I wanted to bring some type of real accountability that were coming from the people who've been working in the area, who've been consuming cannabis. And that's why I said it was Cannabis for the People, particularly about dealing with our expungements. It's crazy to think that we were still set up in a system where it was a time where there was a bill going out that did not want to remove expungement. Imagine something being legalized and you still sitting in a jail cell over it.
Still sitting in jails. And people still going to jail.
That kind of reminds, or made me think of something too. Because my father, both in Michigan and Ohio, got in trouble for paraphernalia. And, you know, that's like accessories to cannabis. That's not even the dang on plant. And
it is legal to buy.
Adjacent.
Yeah, you still, some people still, you know, got charges from that or got in trouble for that too. I'm hoping that, you know, they clear that here and don't try to like trip people up on that as well, because, you know, it's just supplies to use the plant.
That's a good question. Do you think Ohio would ever lead to that point?
Ohio's going to have to. We're talking about we want to bring people here to the state. We're losing population. We just lost 2 congressional districts here within the state of Ohio. So when we talk about, as we are losing people cannot convince their college-aged children to come back to Ohio. We're looking at ways that we can bring back people to Ohio. We just passed Issue 1, which was for abortion. We passed Issue 2, which was for cannabis. And we're going to have to do some other things too. But people want to feel seen. We have to come up with things within the General Assembly to complement, to bring people back to the state, especially young people, because Ohio is an old state. We have more people over 60 than we have underneath 20. So people are just dying here.
Jesus.
People are just dying here. The young people are not staying here, but their parents and grandparents and whoever are just coming here and that's it.
Yeah. Dang.
So we're becoming a retirement state.
Yes, and it's not Florida, and it's no retirement place.
The snowbirds go down there. We down.
People want the quiet life.
We got the snowbirds who can't leave, so it's just call it a silver tsunami or something like that.
Oh man!
But
that's very interesting.
How could post issue 2? How do you think the community can play a role to, I guess, or the youth, or I don't know, how can we make a change in our? You kind of mentioned it, but I don't know. I want to
How do you make a change at the state house, the state laws?
Yeah, because do you think it's time for younger people?
Yeah.
Or do you think the youth? We got the youth that are here. Do we gotta really get more involved?
I think people who have a love and passion for cannabis needs to show up at the state house. And I know for me, I feel like I'm always going to make sure the back door is always open, because I always like to hang out with some goons that's going to get the job done. Yeah. And I'll just say, I sit sometimes through the front door, being a legislator, so I'm in the committee rooms, people can see me, but we always need to know some people that if we do not act right as elected officials, it's some folks that's going to come out of the darkness and get us. Yep. And so we need those advocates of cannabis who are going to push us to say, we want to make sure that this is equitable and that people have access to it and people don't feel recriminalized for partaking in cannabis within their communities. Right. We should start looking, I say anybody who's really a proponent of cannabis should be looking at all the communities now who are not allowing it. It's communities who are putting prohibitions on cannabis and it hasn't even become legal for adult use access yet to sell it. And so it's just
doing that since medicinal.
Yes. Yeah. And because they're scared, they lack understanding, they lack knowledge, and so we have to be in a place where we are educating people about this. One thing I told one of my mayors, I said we should have a cannabis zone. Your city should have a cannabis zone where you should have one area that's zoned off in your city where you can have a dispensary or any other places that are dealing with cannabis. If somebody wants to have a cannabis lounge, if somebody wants to have a dispensary, it should all be in one area of the city. So that's one way that we can encourage our municipalities, is by encouraging a cannabis zone, because zoning is key. And if you are not zoning at that community, it's kind of like you're being recriminalized, because they're saying we don't want it. Yeah. We don't want it.
And I think you give a bit of guidance with a zone and stuff like that, just a guidance for everybody, the community, in a sense. I met a guy in DC, and he said this, not to be disgusting or anything, it's pretty funny. He said, I tell my kids the fart rule, and I was like, what? But he's like, see, I think if you're within somebody that they can smell, so be respectful in that sense. And he was saying, sadly in New York, it's not zoned, but it smells like cannabis everywhere. Yeah, and he was like, I'm at my children's school, and sadly it smells like that. And we don't want that. And I'm not trying to talk negative. I'm just saying this is more reasons why a zone could help, and also just giving people an area to go. They just gave you can drink now and walk around.
They call it the Dora areas where people can outdoor drink.
Can you get a water or weed, something?
I think that could be something, but
they won't even let cannabis use on the patio.
Yes.
Outside, in Mother Nature.
What's going on?
That's why I say we have to really push it on our municipal level. There's a lot of ways we can push it on our municipal level of the cannabis zone, and also just making sure our state pays for canine dogs. The reason why it's so important that our state pays for canine dogs, because every dog in the state will be, obsolete. And if we really think about it, they're all trained for cannabis. You can't untrain a dog for cannabis. And so as we talk about going into this new space, I don't want somebody I know and care for to get stopped by the police and they're like, well, the dog's barking, you must have something. And all you have is cannabis because you're a patient.
Correct.
So we have to also make sure that our local municipalities know that they should be supported by the state of Ohio, that we're going to pay for their canine unit dog to be replaced. So these are different ways that we can really support the local municipalities.
That's a good point, because I feel like certain cultivation companies are dealing with that now with their delivery and things like that. So
And so just coming up with a list of information to our local municipalities, because they don't know what they're doing. The state is not really giving reasonable support, so people are just shutting it down just completely. They're shutting it down. That is a good areas to start maybe even
having some type of educational events or get-togethers in those areas. Because one of my good friends, brothers, shout out to Gerald. We were talking about bookstores and shout out to Courage and Cannabis, Dr. Bridget, and all the other authors. We were talking about even like in Upper Arlington area, there's a new bookstore that opened. It's like that's not an area that's really fond of cannabis, probably, but. We need to start, peacefully showing up in areas like that, showing that,
little small conversations with people. And
just informing them and educating them, and like that can help change so many people. I pass my card out probably to too many people, but I do it to try to give people a tour and really just let them know, like, yo, cannabis, it's helped change my life, so I want to try to help. And I'm not saying like it affects people differently, but I just want to
education.
Yeah, I just want to educate them to think differently. I had to learn to open my mind, and once I did, I'm like, yo, like. So can everybody else, and if I can convince my family to do it, I know other people can do the same.
You work at one of the cleanest places, and I remember that from taking a tour. You work at one of the cleanest places. And it's a lot of people that work places.
That's quite the compliment.
Who work at places, and it's like grungy and dirty, and it's like they're there, but they probably look like they want to take a bath from working there. And this place is like this place is like immaculately clean. Like I'm scared I'm going to mess something up. And so I say that's one thing we do find with a lot of people who are cultivators or processors. It's very clean. Yeah. They take a lot of pride in what they do. I have not been to one cannabis location where it was not clean. People take a lot of pride, and they also take a lot of pride in making sure that product is not contaminated. Yeah. And so it's a lot of intentionality of that, and you see people of all different types of ages, ranges, who are working at these cultivation places, at these processing centers. Yep. And they take a lot of pride in what they do.
And it gives them a lot of opportunity, like you said, for people of all ages and range, because you'll see them, and they enjoy what they're doing.
We've had people come through for the tours, and they're like, man, so it looks like everyone enjoys their job, and that's awesome to see. So it is the diversity, a growing community and industry that some your skills from another industry can definitely transfer over if you apply it. You apply yourself. You just got to figure it out. But I also just tell people don't come into it thinking that like, oh, this is just for a party. It's business. It's also healthcare. It's like a hybrid.
A whole mixture of, like I said, business, healthcare.
But I always try to put the people in their wellness first, though, because that's the most important part, in my opinion.
Health and wellness.
And wellness. But now that we're going into this new era of adult use cannabis, we're just going to have to make sure we are educating people. Know your body. Know about what happens. Like if I'm just put out there a Tylenol, it hits me right away. One person I know took a Tylenol. It took forever for their body to absorb that. So everybody's absorption levels or rates is different. You have to learn that about yourself. So even when it comes to people I know who have medical cannabis, they can consume and be right on the road. Other people I've seen consume, they sitting in a corner somewhere.
I respect
sometimes that might be what they're looking for.
Yes,
and that's okay.
So it's going to be a key that cannabis advocates are educating the public, because we're going to have a lot of folks who went from being on the medical side to people who are just consuming.
Experimenting.
Yes.
Yep, I agree. And you're right. That's 100% fact as far as, like you said, knowing your body and your limit and all that. Because you don't want to, you can pop 2 or 3 edibles, I don't feel nothing, and not know what you're doing, and then you try to get behind the wheel. Or you just got to think smart. Use it wisely. Cannabis is a real medicine, and you don't want to do anything to jeopardize yourself or the community either. Like you don't want to create a storyline and so that they can be like, oh, I told you so, or something like that. I don't know. Right. Like you just gotta use it responsibly, just like alcohol too.
Just gotta say shout out to like all the bud tenders and all the cannabis activists that are out here educating the people.
Salute to all the buds.
That's a part of the benefit of the medical program.
Nah, 100%. I know it's gonna change, like you said. But I still think education is huge. So,
education is key.
Cleveland School of Cannabis, or whether it's online, YouTube University, always be willing to learn and keep doing research, just like technology is. That's how I try to tell people, because we keep learning more and more. The government finally opened up a little bit more, so hopefully that'll be more research that we learn too. But I still think they need to schedule. But
we're hoping that can happen on the federal level. I as much as we are doing in these individual states, the federal government needs to do it. It just, we're over-regulating something that so many states are allowing people to consume in. And so it's like, enough is enough. When are you going to just stop criminalizing people? A lot of this stuff is rooted in racism. Even when we talk about the word marijuana, I mean, just, it was rooted very much in racism, because the majority, which is white men, white people, did not like brown people, and that was particularly brown people. It wasn't even so much, they weren't even targeting black people at that time. Right. I said at that time. Yeah. But they were particularly trying to stop men who were from Mexico, who were the ones who were mostly using cannabis. They didn't like them using it, and they criminalized it. So we have to even look at how the laws became the law. This is me as a kid learning about it through a couple encyclopedias. Eventually I got on my computer. But just learning about how we got to that point where people thought it was something bad.
Right.
Not because something happened, not because people overdose, because you can't overdose over cannabis. I'm going to say that again. You can't overdose over cannabis.
You hear that?
Overdose over cannabis.
And so the systemic racism within our laws have taken multiple generations to break down, and we still have not done that completely.
That's true.
And so being a lawmaker, I'm in a place because I want people to feel seen, and I'm going to keep on pushing the button when it comes to cannabis. Think about how far we've come.
Sometimes, I mean, we come far, but I still feel like sometimes the cheeks just get turned. Like, it's like you can see clearly blatant racism in the industry. Even now,
people turn the blind eye.
Yeah, and it should be like, like, I don't know, you just feel like you're just like in a room alone, like, or I mean, I'm gonna be honest, in Ohio industry, there's times I've walked in rooms and I felt like the crickets just like, just like, oh, what did I do? Or like, or conversations ended or changed now, like, but my goal is to help definitely change that. I mean, if we gotta create some program or educational system, I don't know. I think we need more Black and brown communities to be able to be involved in like to be able to get a career or opportunity in this industry for sure, and not be left behind because it's a vital industry that is can help the entire economy turn around.
And I just say disproportionately, our laws here within Ohio, I'm not going to speak even nationwide, but here within Ohio, disproportionately Black and brown men are being criminalized for cannabis. But if you look at the industry of who is in charge of this medical cannabis, is white men. So it's amazing to think, because I'm going to shame the devil and tell the truth. I got a cousin who has done some time. He's out, just done his time. He can tell you everything about cannabis, everything. And I told him, I said, you should be one of the people leading this charge.
Correct.
But because of his current charges, he will not be able to do so.
That's messed up.
And so he could probably maybe go educate somebody, but he could never own a license. And so we have people who really know this field so well, but the laws, the systemic racism will always keep them as consumers and never as owners. And so that's been the next frontiers. Who is going to be all these owners? And it's not looking, it still looks old and white. I mean, and so that's why we just don't see diversity even in the spaces, the cannabis spaces that we are seeing in different parts of Ohio. It's not. And so that's the continuous systemic racism that we see even within our laws.
I mean, I went to a national event. I'm not gonna name it, but let's just say that it still was very few, even on that level. So it's just like, man.
And so that's why it's so key. Issue 2, one of the things for Issue 2 that just passed in November 2023 was to mandate that we expunge records. And I said we have to take it a step further. It has to be automatic expungements. Automatic expungement. We go to work every day. If you go to work and you need to go to court, what do you have to do? You have to take the time off.
You gotta take the time off.
So you gotta take the time off. Some people might have to get on a bus. Some people may have to take their child to child care. You might have to get a lawyer. All of that just to get it expunged. So you know you're going to get it expunged, but you got to go through all of these steps.
Right.
We need to have an automatic expungement process, and the tax dollars we are getting from cannabis, we can use that money to put into these prosecutor offices to have automatic expungement. That's what laws do. If we really want to break down systemic racism, we have to break down these barriers of systemic racism by having automatic expungement. That as soon as this becomes available to the public, you don't have to look at your past as being a stumbling block.
Right.
So that's the type of things that I'm fighting for. I continue to fight for, and I keep on advocating for. And I feel like we're just chipping away at an iceberg.
Yeah.
We're back again. We back at it, yo.
When we're back again.
So, we're gonna continue
keep the flow
the great
going.
segment we've been having, and ask Juanita, State Representative Juanita Brent, a few more questions that we've got compiled together, and hopefully provide some more information to y'all to keep advocating and keep pushing the needle forward in this Ohio cannabis community. Or wherever you are listening, just know that as a citizen, taxpaying citizen, you do have a voice and you do have rights. And
even if you don't pay taxes, if you live here in Ohio, you should feel like you have a voice.
That's true.
Children should feel like they have a voice.
100%.
Convicted felons or people who are incarcerated should feel like they have a voice. You have a pulse, you have a voice.
That's it. That well said. That's even better. So take out the taxes. My bad. I'm just used to
It's okay.
But 100%, you got a voice no matter what. As long as you got a breath, you got a voice. So I agree, and find a way to use it. Do your best.
That's important.
There's you can always learn too from anybody. You can learn from a kid. A kid can learn from you, obviously. But I think as human beings, we just gotta get stronger at communication. I think cannabis, and from my experience, helps strengthen that too.
Yes.
And I was gonna ask, do you guys think, or ask you for sure, do you think whether medical or adult use, a person should have the legal right to possess a weapon?
That is a tricky question. You're trying to set me up.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just joking. No. So that's always been a continuous conversation because I've talked to, even talking to my father about this, a guy I've been dating, just whomever. People want to have their guns, and they feel like there shouldn't. Especially, we are, a stand your ground state. I mean, if somebody charges you, I can protect myself. So it's kind of like, where did we come up with this that if you have a gun that you can't have cannabis? It's rooted in racism. Period. There's been no type of data or facts to say that people who consume cannabis lose their mind and they don't know how to utilize a gun.
Right.
We don't do that with people with alcohol. We don't say because you consume alcohol, you suddenly can't utilize a gun.
Correct.
I mean, people have all different type of allergic reactions. I have a friend who is allergic to the sun, and she gets real puffy if she's out in the sun. She doesn't lose her mind and can't use a gun. I mean, so we have been brainwashed into thinking certain things, and then they made it into a law because they kept telling us that if you utilize cannabis, you are not in your right mind to also have a gun.
Right. Which
by association.
Yes. And so what we find is that there's this uptick, particularly dealing with black and brown people that had a gun. They might have had a legal gun. Now they're consuming. And so now they're stacking up your case against you because you decided to have medical cannabis, but you already had a gun before that.
right.
Yep.
And so you're making people have to make hard decisions, particularly in the medical space. Do you want to have comfort as a patient, or do you want to have your gun? That's a hard choice to make.
Yeah.
And people should not have to make those choices.
People could be a lot more peaceful with their cannabis and their peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
In their
think,
peace.
Do you think with them making it now making it so you don't need a license to conceal carry anymore? how do you think that affected or is affecting this program in any way?
I don't. When the problematic folks that I serve with made our state the Wild Wild West and made it a constitutional carry state.
Exactly what I was.
I do not think they were thinking to themselves, we are going to pass cannabis within the next year. I promise you.
Okay.
And it should have been an uptick of people buying guns. It should have been like a huge uptick of people buying guns, going to classes. And it wasn't. It was an uptick of people buying ammo. That was about it. But not so much of people buying guns. But I do think down the road there probably will be people who will have uncomfortability of all of this happening within the state of Ohio.
See, and I think it all again falls back on education. Because even with gun safety, cannabis use safety, it all just matters on the user being informed.
But the thing that's so funny about all of this is that we have so many people who do not want cannabis users to have guns, but we won't do gun safety. We won't make sure we have background checks. We won't make sure that we have gun lock safety.
Which are already there.
There's already, I mean, that should be automatic. So, I mean, you won't do, gun legislation to actually make sure we are in safer communities that way, but then you want to prohibit people from having a gun just because they consume cannabis. But you don't do that with alcohol. You don't do that with mushrooms. I mean,
all other choices
so
adults
many
make
ways,
to
man.
use.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of those, and this kind of leads to my other question. Do you think the age should be 18 or 21 for cannabis use?
well, I'm gonna sound like the mean, grumpy old lady, but I'm gonna say 21. The reason why I say 21 because in the state of Ohio, you have to be 21 for alcohol, 21 for cigarettes.
Tobacco, yeah.
So let's keep it consistent.
Yeah, I respect it. That's fair enough. 100%.
But I respect how it's set up now where, if it's someone younger, it has to be like an adult caregiver that gets it for them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's mostly or all medicinal, essentially, so.
Yeah. No, hell yeah. It's an important aspect to just consider always with any substance. You're supposed to be an adult and use it in moderation.
That's why it's called adult use cannabis.
Yes.
This is not recreational. This is not something you play with.
Yeah.
Responsible adults consume cannabis.
Exactly.
And so words are very powerful, but when you are in the brainwashing, the propaganda of seeing recreational, you sound like you at recess.
So you can be at the park.
Like
everybody's gonna be,
This is an adult. This is an adult use decision.
And then where hippies starts coming back around. And
just like you have to be adult use for alcohol because you have to make responsible choices about alcohol. Same thing with cigarettes. Same thing with cannabis. You have to be a responsible adult.
Yeah.
This is an adult decision.
Correct.
And so that's how we have to start phrasing it. I cringe when people say recreational. I really cringe because everyone has to be responsible for their decisions.
Yep. And you're right. And words are powerful. So you're detracting from how powerful it is by just saying that word rec. It's nothing to play with. That's what kids do.
Nothing to play with at all.
Speaking of being an adult though, like have you or anyone in your family ever been against cannabis?
Oh, I definitely have people in my family who are against cannabis. And so they're just very surprised. He was like, Juanita, you weren't raised around it. I said I was. It was called 4-H. And so
that's true.
I might not always see people consuming it, but I do know that there were people who were growing it and they weren't getting caught.
Yep.
They were cultivating it in the middle of their cornfield. They were cultivating next to their wheat. And they weren't
plain sight.
It was plain sight. Doing it, I mean, like, growing corn to sell it to animals, for animals to be able to eat, and right there, like. And so
it's not hurting the environment or nothing.
Yes. So most people that I know that I'm related to, or even some friends, one of my good friends, she's anti-cannabis, but I really feel like it's from a place of ignorance because of more propaganda. And so they'll be like, "Oh, this is a drug. It's gonna kill you." And so you have to start debunking that information. And you might need to give them a good old school encyclopedia and tell them to read, because they just been reading this propaganda that these are drugs.
Right.
2, what really hurt us was the development of the DARE program. That really hurt us when it came to cannabis education, because it was teaching kids and teaching adults that cannabis was a drug. So when you really look at the word drug, it's a processed item. It's something that's processed.
Right.
This is not processed. This is a plant.
It's a natural plant.
Yeah.
And so we've had programs like DARE, and the people who are the descendants of DARE are like in their late 20s, 30s, sometimes 40s, who are the descendants of DARE, and now they're raising children based off of that bad information from DARE from growing up.
Yeah. Like I was stand and stuff like that. But even that's more towards like tobacco industry, I guess you would say. But
DARE didn't tell you to not smoke cigarettes.
Right. That's true.
I'm just saying. So I mean, we know cigarettes do kill.
Worse. Yeah, they definitely, and they more addictive.
Way more addictive.
You can let cannabis go, take a tea break or whatever you need if you know it's mind over matter with any substance. But cannabis is definitely something that your body can deal with taking a break from too, and not like take you out. Like 'cause some of those substances can. You need, once you get addicted, your body needs it.
Yeah.
It's so many perks of why it's
Like
great that we
turkey.
legalize it, because we need to make sure people are receiving cleaning products. And sometimes that's where the stigma comes from, is that people were not their random cousin. Like, my cousin had cannabis and he died. No, it was laced with something.
Yes.
And so when people are not in a place of education, they would use this random situation like it was laced with fentanyl or laced with, I think they used to, somebody was saying it was wet. That's what they call it in the streets, wet. That embalming fluid stuff.
Oh, yes.
They call it wet.
Yeah.
See, I be doing stuff.
I
Forgot about that, actually.
So-
See, but no, and you're right. It's important to be able to, excuse me, like get it tested and know where it's coming from.
Yes.
It's fully sourced. A lot of this stuff is triple tested, so you can't.
Yeah, because I have
this-
family members that actually went through something like that, unfortunately.
And this is why we need to have it legalized. When it comes from any processing place, you're going to know where it came from, that it was, triple checked. And I mean, we have so many regulations with it. You better get it from a good dispensary that's licensed through the state of Ohio to make sure you're getting clean product. So that's why it's so important that people utilize products that are coming from these dispensaries, not getting it from the random corner store. If one more person tell me they got something from the corner store,
Gas station.
the gas
The
stations,
little CBD shops and whatnot.
I was like, please do not
Delta
do that.
8.
The Delta, don't take Delta 8.
So let me ask you this: I'm curious if we could, like, home growing is allowed, and shout out, you gotta support your local growers. But I think we could clean that up if they allowed the smaller testing facilities to interact with the home growers.
With the local.
Yeah, to kind of create a whole other economic system or opportunity. Like, because there's some bigger testing facilities that's in the industry too, but there's more local. Just like some of the standalones, there's some smaller places that could maybe use the help from like local growers or people on a micro level style grow, kind of like. I just
say
feel
that'll
like
open up like a floodgate of opportunity.
I think long term we do need to have more testing places for people who are, home grow. But I'll be honest with you, the state of Ohio gives out free seeds all the time for potatoes, tomatoes, and people aren't growing it at home.
Damn,
So if many people think like, cannabis is legal and I'm gonna start growing it,
it's not easy.
it's not easy.
Nah, it's definitely not.
So if you don't already got the green thumb,
that's 100%.
don't think you're gonna be supplying your entire.
You can control what goes in it, but you gotta also know that you gotta control. You control what comes out from it, and it don't always work that way. Growing cannabis is not easy. So shout out to the people that got the
shout out to the
skills,
people.
too.
So I believe that will come with more demand. Right now in Ohio, I'm telling you this, you cannot buy seeds to do home grow. So even though it's legal, there's no place in Ohio to legally buy seeds.
Okay. So thank you. That was actually going to be one of my questions.
That's a very good
what
point.
clones and seeds? So you can't even legally
There's no place in Ohio to legally buy seeds, and so those are those. It's a lot of things that are legal, but it's like, where are you getting the seeds from? And that's how people can get themselves caught up in the criminality of something, because they got it from their homeboy, but it's not a certified seed through the state, and that becomes a thing within itself. There will be a time where seeds will be sold. But right now, we have not fully fleshed that out.
So that leads me to my other question.
Okay.
What's your stance on this latest hemp bill? The latest farm bill. I mean, not that you may know everything. I just know that and when I don't know everything either, from what I read, it seems like it's almost, there's things that needed to be changed, but it's almost like they're taking it too far and can eliminate like a lot of just like hemp and very close THC related products.
I'm gonna give my long short story about how I even got introduced to hemp. When I went to Japan, they were building houses in Japan from hemp. We were on a boat ride, and it was these big reefs with plants on it. And I was asking the guy, I was like, what is those plants? He's like, oh, that's hemp. We use it for filtration in the water. They are like light years ahead of us. This was probably about 15 years ago. We just legalized hemp in Ohio. Senate Bill 70, I think, back in 2019.
Right.
They been had hemp legalized. Like, they making houses, they selling it, they using it for medical programs.
Do you feel like they restrict certain things like hemp and cannabis because of how the opportunity it has to possibly, I guess, put certain other industries out of...
Yes, it's a lot of it's rooted in racism.
Yeah.
I mean, just when because you can't even get high off of hemp, okay? I'm waiting for somebody to push back on me and be like, I get high off of hemp every day. If you getting high off of hemp, I don't know, you're smoking something else.
It's not hemp.
It's not hemp.
THC. Yeah, they sell those little like hemp cigarettes and stuff like that, hemp sticks.
Yeah.
But
it's probably laced with something else, and that's always a part of just education. Yeah. So it cannot get you high, but it smells the same. You might be like, "Ooh, this smells." For those who like to smell. So, but there's so many untapped potential when it comes to hemp that our country has not done. When we talk about the rising cost of housing right now, other countries are going circles around us because they're already taking full advantage of hemp, which is one of those plants you just throw it out there and it grows. You don't have to do too much maintenance. And now you turn this into like 3D printing of houses, which are very sturdy and very cheap.
Yeah. Amazon has houses you can put up now.
Man, it's like Hemp Creek that I heard was very strong. And I've heard hemp, you can put it in like in an area in the soil that's not clean, and it'll clean up all that, and then you can start a whole nother harvest.
We have a lot of lead in our ground up in Cleveland, and when hemp passed in the state of Ohio, I was like, we should make sure we put hemp in all of these lead fields and clean up the ground. Cleveland has still not put hemp in the ground yet. But it's not because of who our mayor. Shout out to my mayor because he's awesome. But it's because we do not have the foresight to understand the importance of this plant.
Correct.
Yeah. It's a plant. Education is key, and other countries have ran with it. And Ohio was really almost like one of the last states to legalize hemp.
Instead of fight it, why not join it?
Why not join it? And
maybe we don't need cotton as much, like you said, textile industry.
I mean, cotton still
more hemp.
Cotton still scares some folks. It still scares me. So I see cotton, I get scared. So I mean, let's move on over to hemp. Cotton has a very
it's traumatic.
It is. Like, why are we still doing that?
Why are we still cotton? Like, why is this cotton in the room?
Oh man.
So look, what about?
Well, that made me think of another question. So, and I know a lot of people are probably wondering about this too, as far as combustion laws. How is recreation going to affect that on the medicinal, I guess, and on the recreational side?
For people to consume it?
Yes.
I think we're going to have some real problems. People are going to want to be in the same areas like they do with cigarettes, like they do with tobacco. And the way this General Assembly is moving, they want you basically sitting at home in your backyard, and that's it. They don't want you on the patio. They don't want you in the streets. And so I was literally arguing with my colleague who was like, well, I don't want to be walking down the street smelling that stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, well, people don't want to smell cigarettes, but you gladly smoke one in front of the State House. We know who you are. And so we always have to think about the propaganda that goes along with this type of stuff. Because if secondhand smoke can kill me from tobacco, But secondhand smoke from cannabis cannot.
Yeah. Right.
But propaganda has...
Or get you high.
Yeah.
And so people have dealt with this propaganda, this propaganda of lies and racism, that they keep repeating it in hopes that other people are going to believe it too. And so that's where we're at. And so that's why people who are allies, people who are consumers, people who are owners and licensees has to just come tell us the facts of stuff.
Yep.
Because most of these people that's putting their finger on it haven't even consumed cannabis.
Nah.
Not since they were a kid.
Yeah, and they just got their own presumptions or, wrongful understandings.
There was like, one of my colleagues told me a funny story. This is funny to me. They was like, and I did it when I was 16 and I found myself in the backseat of my parents' car. And I was like, well, what all were you doing that night? It was like, I was drinking and smoking, a little roach. And this, they called it a roach, not me.
Wow.
But I said, well, it's probably the alcohol.
Yeah.
I was like, you combine alcohol and
sounded like you high and you drunk.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's probably why you were in the backseat of your parents' car, because you don't know yourself.
That's gonna make you pass out.
Yeah.
You don't know yourself. And so we are dealing with people who saw they were the miseducation. And so these are the people who are lawmakers. The miseducated, the misguided, the people who still believe in these systemic racism things are the ones making these laws. And that's why hemp is we're still struggling to really have a prosperous state when it comes to hemp. It's legalized and people can grow it, but people aren't really able to utilize that to make hemp oil or process it like they would like to.
Yeah, and it's tough because everyone right now, wants to regulate it like alcohol. But there's the medicinal side of, hemp and, all the different uses of hemp and cannabis as well. And obviously, you don't really get that from alcohol. So it's kind of a hard battle. It's like, can we choose one side or the other, or do we have to find a new way to kind of make this all work?
Yeah, we just need to figure it out. And education is a key. I keep on emphasizing that through this whole conversation. Yep. We have to be in a place where we are educating the people with the facts, the subject matter experts who are in this space. The patients have to be in a place where they're educating. They have to keep demanding that information. There are so many people who are sending us emails like, build the wall. Representative Brent, I want you to build the wall on our southern border. I said, against Kentucky? I mean, just like, so we supposed to build a wall literally people are sending me emails all the time about building a wall. And I was like, well, we're not Texas. Like, why would I be talking about building the wall?
I'm in Ohio.
And so, so if people can send me an email every day about building a wall, then people who are advocates about cannabis can send me an email every day.
Y'all heard that. Take the time and get off social media and send an email.
Every day.
Take a little, or find your representative, your local representative.
Reach out to someone.
Let them know.
OhioHouse.gov. You too can find your state representative.
Hey. And
communication
so
is key.
this leads me to I got a couple more questions, but they kind of fall in order. It's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the States Act? This feeds off of education still, but I feel like right now a lot of states are obviously making their own decisions. But do you think it should be up to them only, or federally it should cannabis should just be normalized? Period?
It needs. I'm glad we legalize it here in Ohio, but I'm also fearful. And the reason why I'm fearful that each state is doing it, if I get on a plane and go somewhere else where it's not legal, I could get arrested on site for something I bought in my own state. So I remember when cannabis first got legalized in Colorado, and I went there for training, and so they took us to a cultivation place. People bought products, and they told us, if you get on a plane and your state has not legalized it or it's not okay, you can get arrested. It will not be our problem. We need to federalize it. Yeah. People should not be getting criminalized based off the state.
It's crazy to think, because someone could come from another country where it's legal across the whole country. Come here, and it's like, oh, it's not legal here. Well, let me go to this other state. Oh, it is legal here. Let me go to this other state. It's not yet. It's like, wait, I thought. What's happening here?
Yeah,
That's like a checkerboard.
Or even medical issues. You know, I've had friends, or even myself, was considering like moving across state just to try to be legal with it. But then I was, able to be patient and finally start to get the right access. But it's deep. I got one more question, and Devin, if you got any more follow up, but this is important for someone like yourself and anybody involved in the government, politics, whatever you want to call it. I'm hoping I'm saying the right name. It's called the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, where it protects people like yourself from getting in trouble for if you're off the clock using illegal medicine or plant like cannabis, and because you can go home, not just you, but anybody can go home and drink and not really get in trouble in a sense. But it's like for something like cannabis, it should be safe for you all to. Just because you work in the government doesn't mean. I know there's a lot of like loopholes and higher risk jobs that people can't use it, but I feel like it should be some protection for those federal workers to be able to have their wellness medicine or use and like not be judged for it or criminalized for it.
Especially if some of those men might have like PTSD or something. Maybe they were former military or something like that.
Shout out to all the veterans.
Yeah.
Very much. I'm a daughter of a veteran, and we have to really look at how we are recriminalizing people for something that's very much legal. Now, I always say certain jobs, if you are dealing with a crane, I'm just saying something that's a big item, you probably don't need to be drinking or doing any type of cannabis. You probably just don't need to do that, and you probably already know that.
Correct.
But if I'm just a receptionist and I, did my gummies the night before, I should not be feeling criminalized the next day at work because it's probably already came out of my system too. But it also goes with the thing of education that I probably would not want to be doing this right before I go into work either, and allowing people to make the discretion just the same way you do not want to be drunk at work, you do not want to be high at work either, and allow people to make that discretion.
Yeah.
So, that's true. That's very true.
And it's not like condoning it, and some people may function well doing that, but some people don't,
and this is the caveat.
It's a case by case kind of thing.
It's a case by case. Everything is fine until it inhibits you from doing your job.
Correct.
Or your actions is inhibiting other people's to do their jobs. And so that is a thing of adulting. That's why it says adult use cannabis. Because you have to be responsible. I feel like I'm very repetitive, but it's adult use cannabis.
It is,
But repetition means facts, so I respect it because you touching on things that people need to actually hear and take in. We appreciate you for taking the time to sit down and talk to us, provide some facts and knowledge.
So I have another question as well. With you being involved in transportation, what do you think about the possibility of delivery with?
You need to do that. Okay, so as a woman who used to be I am a woman who used to be. I went to Michigan for a wedding. And we stayed in a hotel, and they delivered it to the room.
That's fine.
It was like the DoorDash for cannabis.
That too.
And so
like
I think
handicapped people that have trouble getting to the. You know what I mean? There's so many good.
See, he just made me think of another question because actually, I've heard other states have to have days or hours for disability folks if they don't have delivery service, because you can't have somebody in a wheelchair or something like that stand out in line for that long.
And we see it happen.
Yeah, but you can't. But it has.
It sucks. It's like this shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
That was a game changer to see that in Michigan. I was like, whoa, like this is serious. You just get on the app and then when they show up with it, you have to show your ID still, but you have to take a picture of your ID just to order it, and then you have to show it when they're delivering it, and it has to be delivered to the person who ordered it. Game changer. Because then I think to myself that people don't have to leave their home and be traveling with it.
That's safer, you're right.
And it also helps us with the economics because that's more jobs that are put in place. Like delivery is the thing, especially since the pandemic, people love having things delivered.
Yeah.
So I think if Ohio hopefully will move to that too.
Some income.
Oh my goodness, delivery groups that make tons of money.
Yeah.
Tons of money.
Logistics, y'all hear that? You need logistics folks out there. Hopefully,
and that
maybe
might help reduce some of the stigma that maybe there's people that are looking into joining the medical program, but they don't want to, be seen or whatever it may be.
Man, so many aspects to it, but that got to change in some aspects because they shouldn't be frowned upon. They shouldn't be judged. And lastly, I'm gonna say this: just far as just within the industry, do you think transparency is a big part of education? Because and what I mean by that is like in different states they change the strain names, even though it's like it might be the same genetics. And I think that also confuses people as far as education-wise and how they get to know what they should use or be familiar with that. So,
we need to. That's why it's so important that the federal government takes the reins for this, because it should not be different based off the state. And so that's hard for our consumers, our patients, our owners, our licensees who are trying to just really say like, hey, I know you might be moving, but if you go to this state for this time period, this is what it looks like over there. That's too much. It's just too much. I mean, milk is milk no matter where you go in the United States. And that's the same thing with cannabis. It should not be a whole nother, like, well, this strain is this name and this strain is this name in that state. No, just should be the same.
Like, nah, for sure.
Especially if we're going to regulate seeds like you were talking about earlier, for people to grow, then whatever the name is, that should be what it is.
And no disrespect to any of the breeders out there, because I know you can make new genes and all that. But the thing is, it's just kind of like have it a more centralized or just education focused like industry, in the sense of not so many or just really like categorize, because cannabis is based by Kushes, you got hazes, it's based by effects too. So I feel like we
need like more of a network.
Yeah, it'll only get better and deeper once people get more informed. But not to go over anybody's heads.
No.
Thank you, Juanita though, for seriously
thank you so much
time. This has been awesome. This has been dope, very informative. I hope the people of Ohio and anywhere else and that's supportive of cannabis, anywhere listening or watching, hope y'all have learned something and take in a lot of the knowledge and facts she spit.
Just one thing: state reps matter, state senators matter. We make the laws, and we run a lot of money. We run about a couple $1 billion. I'm just going to put that out there, and we get to make decisions about all of that. So you should be concerned about who is on the ballot. Every 2 years you get to elect your state rep. Every 4 years you get to elect your state senator. We're the ones making the laws, not Congress in DC. Right here in Columbus, it's the state house. We're the ones making the laws. We're right amongst you guys. There's 132 of us. Go to ohiohouse.gov. You can look up who your state rep is. ohiosenate.gov. You can look up your state senator is. My name is Juanita O. Brent, and I represent Ohio House District 22. Hit me up. Call me 216-413-8932. You can look me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Juanita_Brent.
There you go.
There we go.
Lady of the people.
Vice President. Black Caucus.
State rep.
I've earned my stripes, I'm buzzing like a bee. I don't gotta fly to that nectar, the honeys come to me. Feeling like I'm unstoppable on a winning spree. The universe is showing me signs, I'm seeing triple threes. I'm optimistic, I continue to increase my financial statistics, so I can't afford to be pessimistic. I spit vernacular bullets, my balls to go ballistic. I wanna learn a third language and triple my linguistics. I could never be a quitter, I'm too deterministic. Being egotistic is not in my characteristics. Done with conforming my life to society's box. I'm tired of seeing my people keep taking a loss. We need more ownership like shops and crops and stocks. Imagine if I ruled the world, I'm thinking like Nas, I'm God's son.